Hello, this is Angelia with today's wisdom. Today's wisdom comes from Daily Ohm. The direction of happiness, leaving a relationship. One of the hardest decisions we ever make in life is leaving a long-term relationship that just isn't working, or at least it should be a hard decision. When attempts at repairing and working out issues aren't working, it may be time to examine moving on. And, you should work on relationships with the people that you love. You were in a relationship with them to begin with because you loved them. So, like my husband and I, we had been together twice, and he wanted to give another try, and we loved each other, but we didn't really know how to love each other. So, I said, okay, there were problems in the other relationships, so you need to do this, that, and the other thing. And I had my best friend was a counselor, and so she said, make him go to anger management. He said he had problems with anger. He's got bipolar. Make him go to bipolar skills training since he doesn't want to stay on his meds. And make him go to couples counseling, because I tried to get him to go to couples counseling before, and he wouldn't do it. I'm not going to no head shrinker. But so I thought, well, okay, if he really loves me and he really wants to be in a relationship with me, he'll do these things. And if he doesn't, then I'm not going to give him another shot. So I called his bluff, so to speak, and he did it. He went to all these things, and he learned some things. And like he said, I don't blame you for breaking up with me. I was a jerk. He said, I didn't treat you right. And he goes, I see that now since we've been, in couples therapy and talking about this stuff. And he said, yeah, I can't blame you for doing what you did. He said, I was just, I went out and the men were telling me this is how I'm supposed to treat a woman. And he said, what did I know? He said, my dad let my mom run all over him, and I didn't want that, so eventually, we figured out how to love each other, how he wanted to be loved, how I wanted to be loved, and, how to be together. And one of the problems was, he wanted to be my life, but it's like, they said the other person can't be your life. They can be a part of your life, but they can't be your life, or you're both going to be unhappy. So, we are emotional. Oh my gosh, it just went weird. Emotional creatures, and when I've got some print here that is so bad. Our heartstrings are tied to those of another. Separating from that person can feel like an act of courage. And, I felt like it was in my second marriage, because I had children to worry about. So it's like, well, when it was just me, that was one thing. But now things are happening to my children, so that has to stop. I'm not going to let my children grow up this way. It stops now. It is not something most of us will take lightly, and you shouldn't. It should be a serious consideration. Unfortunately, there's all too many people. Like, we have a divorce right now. I think last I saw 52%, so it's over half now. And people just feel like, marriage is interchangeable. Oh, this one doesn't fit good, just go get another one that might fit better. And that's not how it should be. It should be the commitment that it's supposed to be. And you should work on your differences and your problems and work them out, And many of us will struggle with our desire to stay in a relationship that is unfulfilling simply in order to avoid that pain. And I know people who've done that. My own grandmother was in a relationship, and her husband was a bigamist, we found out. And he was just really mean to her. She had bruises on her arms, and she told me one time that, she would do that because he would try to give her like a little smack, and she would do that. And, people hadn't noticed that, but nobody called him on it or said anything. So people will stay in relationships so that it's not, painful, or because I had an aunt-in-law who said, she really needed a man because she needed insurance and things. So people are odd. Sometimes, still unfortunately in this day and age, there are women who feel like they need a man so that they can have money and, health care and homes and things like this. And that's a shame, because that should never be a consideration in your life. And my grandmother's generation, and my grandmother told me, because I asked her one time, why don't you get a divorce? And she said, I was brought up that nice ladies don't get divorces. So, there's different outlooks between the age groups and at different places and different cultures and things. So that comes into play. But, love shouldn't hurt. So we may question whether the happiness we seek even exists. And we may wonder if we might be wiser to simply settle where we are, making the best of what we have. And I'm telling you, a good relationship takes work. There has to be intervention when things start going south. You have to speak up. Women are especially bad about not speaking up. We just assume they should know. We do that. And sometimes I still catch myself doing that. Well, you should have known. But they don't know. And, they talk about women's intuition, but, we have 3 times the connection in our corpus callosum than they do, so they're actually a little slower on the uptake. So we need to advocate for ourselves and say, hey, when you said that, that made me feel this way. Or when you did that, I felt like, or, I want whatever, and I feel like you're not trying anymore to give me that, and, things like that. Because women especially, like I say, we think they should know. And now men are really bad at just riding the status quo, and kind of taking the other half for granted, because they think she'll always be there. But if you're not maintaining the relationship, she might not always be there. So keep that in mind. On the one hand, we almost relish the idea that true happiness is not out there so that we can avoid the pain of change. And a lot of people hate change. My husband will tell you he hates change. But, sometimes if you're unhappy, you need to make a change. You are the only one that can change your life for the better to give you a happy life, On the other hand, we feel within ourselves a yearning to fulfill our desire for relationships that are vital and healing. And that's something I had to learn coming up. There were people who were basically toxic to me. And so I found a circle where I was, loved and supported. And I'm still, friends with these ladies to this day for the most part. So if you didn't come up in the best situation, and you don't have good relationships, then my advice is to go talk to a counselor or a therapist, because there's usually a reason, because I was basically a happy kid, and I attracted people, and I kept friends because I, kept that going. And some people, have problems. They can't really make friends. They're competitive, and jealous, and, a little passive aggressive, and people aren't going to stand for that. Eventually that's going to get old, and they're going to be like, But if you find yourself in that situation, my advice is to go talk to somebody. Get it figured out why you don't have any friends, so, you can move forward and have a fulfilling life where you can have friends and have healthy friendships and relationships, so that your life can be happy. Ultimately, most of us will follow this call because deep within ourselves, we know that we deserve to be happy. And most of us do deserve to be happy. We deserve our higher good, unless you are just like a bad, ignorant, hateful, indecent person. you probably deserve to be happy. And there are people like that out there, so. And I don't want to hear from you. We all know that we deserve to be happy. We all deserve to be happy, no matter where we find ourselves in this moment. And we are all justified in moving, like plants toward the light, in the direction that leads to our greatest fulfillment. And we should. If you're holding yourself back, if you're keeping yourself in the dark and not going into the light and living your best life, then you need to start. Because you can't win the race or even finish the race unless you start running. First, though, we may need to summon the courage to move on from the relationship that appears to be holding us back. And like I said, it was scary for me in my relationship with my ex-husband, because I had 3 children to worry about. And my parents were not on board with me leaving him. They were like, well, how are you going to afford the kids? I guess they were afraid maybe they'd have to help. But, it took courage, but I had to do it because it was what was best for me and my children at the time. He just couldn't be here acting the way he was. Taking the first steps will be hard, but the happiness we find when we have freed ourselves from a situation that is draining our energy will outshine any hardship we undergo to get there. And that's the truth. We learned a lot. And now we can have discussions without people getting mad and, threatening and cajoling and stuff like that. We can have actual discussions about things. And I'm not afraid to raise my voice to him anymore, because I know he's not going to do anything. And then God help him if he did do anything. Because I'm not that girl anymore that, was a little 20-year-old mousy girl. No. I'm an old lady, and I don't have no patience for no mess. And you start a mess, there's going to be a mess. So, we have a good relationship now because we've learned how to love each other. Even though like I said, we loved each other, and we knew that from day one. We did. But we didn't know how to love each other, and so we had to learn that. Keeping our eyes trained on the horizon, we begin the work of disentangling ourselves from the relationship that no longer fits. That can be any relationship. It could be family, friends, significant other, people you work with, people you know, neighbors. No one should be making your life miserable. And if they are, you are well within your right to say, hey, you know what? I just don't want to talk to you no more because you're making my life miserable. And I don't want to deal with it anymore. I'm a happy person. I want to be happy. And you just messing up my life. Get out of my flow. And you're well within your right to say that, because you should be living your best life. And if other people, don't want that, it's like my grandma said, misery loves company. Miserable people are going to try and make you miserable. And, you're well within your right to walk away and say, done. Keeping our eyes trained, we begin to work, we got that far with the relationship no longer fits. Every step brings us closer to a relationship that will work, and the freedom we need to find the happiness we deserve. And honestly, I'm glad that he decided to go to counseling with me, because if he didn't, we wouldn't be happy like we are now. We were having a happy life. We joke around and play with each other now like we hadn't done since, we were kids when we were first dating, We tell each other everything. Everyone knows everything about everyone else. And And, we go places and do things together. We have a farm together. We enjoy going to working on the farm, planting things and doing things, driving around and looking at lakes and things like that. And we have fun. We talk to each other and kid each other. And, it's 1,000 times better than it was before, we had some ground rules and some, understanding of each other that we didn't have before. So if you want to go in the direction of happiness and you're thinking about leaving a relationship, think about it long and hard. And if this person, can't offer you anything but misery, then you're well within your right to walk away. But I say, talk to him about it first. Say, when you do this, it makes me feel like this. Or you can even start, I always say use I first. I feel like this when you do this. And my advice is go get some counseling. Go family counseling, couples counseling, whatever. And work this out. Because anytime you're in a relationship, you got into that relationship for a reason. Now sometimes you're born into a relationship, but otherwise you got into the relationship for a reason. You wanted to be friends with this person. You wanted to be, in a relationship with this person or whatever. So think long and hard about it. And try to get them, to work on the relationship if you really want the relationship. And if they're not willing to do that, then they're not willing to do what it takes to have a relationship with you. And if that's the case, you're not really losing anything, because they should be as invested in the relationship as you are. And if they're not, then you should move on. So think about it. Please like and share this wisdom so we can spread it around the world. And if you want to help me out, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to help me out even more, go to my Patreon page and become a patron. Thanks for watching. That's all for now. Until next time.